I'm super excited because we're finally back. We are back at the J&B Body Talks podcast in the J&B Body Talks studio. I'm excited. Energy is high because today we are sitting with somebody who lives in a world where energy is high a lot of the time, and I am super excited to get inside of his mind and talk about something that I have only been able to do through watching YouTube videos or in video games. Without further ado, Sherwin Pacquette. Nice to meet you, man. Thank you so much for coming. I'm become a fan very recently. All cards on the table. I wasn't really aware of you before I looked into you on Instagram and found out what you do.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. Like I said when I first walked in, this blew me away.
I'm really glad to hear that because we put a lot of effort into trying to make this place look as good as we can.
I see it, and it
awesome.
does, and it does.
I want to talk about this thing that you do, and I'm being as vague as possible because I want you to talk about it as much as possible. So why don't you take a second to tell the people who you are and what you do and why you're here?
Well, my name is Sherwin Pacquette, as he said it a little while ago. I'm the XZD Hill Climb race car driver. I don't know if some of you guys have seen my Instagram or post or something like that, Winning Motorsports. I've been doing it for hill climb probably maybe 5 or 6 years now. Before that, I did a bunch of track stuff like HPDEs, some time trial stuff. But I was introduced to hill climb, and to be honest, after hill climb, I never looked back.
That makes sense.
I don't know, like it was once I did that first hill climb, it because I'm a very disciplined and focused type of person, so I feel as if hill climb just forces you to have that more.
Okay.
Like, have you ever seen like rally drivers drive?
Yeah, I've seen those clips there's some that went viral of 2 guys in a car, one guy driving and one guy giving directions.
Right.
And it looks like the most chaotic thing
Yes.
I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes.
So that's insane. So before we go any further, can you walk us through what is a hill climb? Because people hear hill climb, maybe they've seen like Pikes Peak, for example.
Right.
So can you explain a little bit about what it is? What are the rules to it? How do you win? What are the cars like? Just walk me through that a little bit.
So hill climb is essentially tarmac road, upper mountain, very curvy roads. Some people call it toll gate, some people don't. And we're attacking the clock.
Okay.
So one car goes up, about maybe 30, 45 seconds after that, they send another car up.
Wow.
And you race, and whoever has the best time at the end of the weekend, there's overall first, second, third, fourth, and then there's individual classes.
And how many people get to race?
Typically, depending on how much register, it could go from like 50 to 100 cars.
Oh, wow. So it's a lot of people.
Yes.
And you get one shot at this, or you can go a bunch of times?
No, typically, let's say Saturday you break down, they'd have like a novice meeting, and they'd have like the driver's meeting, and we have, if we're lucky, no crashes, there's 2 or 3 runs in the morning, like, because there's group A, group B, and then there's in the afternoon maybe 2 or 3 runs. So 4 to 6 runs a day.
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday.
So where do you even do something like this? Because it's a very specific sort of, like I brought up one of the more popular, probably the most famous of the hill climbs is Pikes Peak, correct?
Right.
So where is it? And we're located in New York. You're a Bronx guy, as we discussed before the podcast. That's going to lead to another question of how does a guy from the Bronx get into racing, and how did you find this love of racing? But where do you even go to do something like this?
Right now I run with the Pennsylvania Hill Climb Association,
okay.
But I also run with the Appalachian Hill Climb Association as well as Appalachian Hill Climb Series. They are run by Summit Racing and Backroads of Appalachia, and they partner with Haltech, and other companies are involved to get the entire thing ready. PHA, they've been running for over 100 years.
Wow.
And PHA is Pennsylvania Hill Climb Association. Bunch of their hill climbs is based in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So there's Reading, Pennsylvania. There's Laurel Run. There's.
Okay.
Have you ever been to the Pagoda?
No.
In Pennsylvania? Well, it's a really nice building, but if you drive by that building, those are the roads that we run up.
Okay.
There's one in Maryland. The Appalachian Hill Climb Series is Norton, Virginia. There's what's the other one? Pineville.
Okay.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yep.
So you've been there.
I've heard of that one.
Right. And then there's the Chasing the Dragon, which is in North Carolina.
Okay.
And
is that the same as the Tail of the Dragon?
No. It's like 3 hours away from the Tail of the Dragon,
Okay.
but they call it Chasing the Dragon. Great hill climb. This year I was supposed to have a YouTube series called Road to the Dragon.
Okay.
However, things didn't go as planned, and we're kind of just making it up as we go because we have so much planned for this year, a lot going on, and things didn't work out as we planned, but they never usually do.
These things are crazy. We got a buddy. Shout out to my boy Coy White, who's going to be on the podcast very soon.
Oh, that's my guy.
Yeah,
that's my guy.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Coy's a homie, and he's a big in the drift scene. And he's been planning this amazing video series about his Vail side.
Yes.
And he's just been like, every time we talk, he's like, it's going.
Yeah,
it's
literally,
going. We're
literally.
Trying to make it happen.
Literally.
So
when I talked, I think I spoke to him like 2 days ago actually, and we was talking about because we're both sponsored by Vibrant.
Okay.
And Vibrant is basically sort of the last piece to the puzzle for both of us. For his whole the drift series, I told him, I said, man, let me know. Maybe I might take the Racecar. Maybe follow you through a couple states.
That would be
and then dip
sick,
back.
dude.
It would be, right?
That'd be so sick.
I told him I'm so down for that.
So okay. So you find a spot. So you're looking for basically elevation, but
Yes.
also twists and turns.
Yes.
So like let's say that you have let's just take Pikes Peak because it's the most universally understood.
Yes.
So how long does it take? What's a good time to get up one of these? I know it probably depends on the class that you're in and the car and the race itself, but is it like a 5-minute race? Is it like a 10-minute race? How long are you in the car from bottom to top?
Well, I'll say they're not as long as Pikes Peak.
Okay.
For sure. Pikes Peak, I don't even know the maximum time it takes to go through each section or the two sections they have.
There's like 162 turns or something like that.
Right.
Something crazy.
Nowhere near that.
Okay.
Some of them are a mile, 1.2 miles. Like they're shorter, but there are others that are longer, and there are others that call for fast speeds.
Okay.
Like this is one in Pennsylvania. It's called Duryea Hill Climb. You got guys like a buddy of mine, Mark Arbel. He's a beast. He's been doing it for like 19 years. He's getting like 160 going up these
160 miles an hour.
Yes, going up these roads, and we call them straights, but they're not straight.
For me, they wouldn't be straight.
No, they're not straight. Like all of them are twisty turns, but you hit it just correctly, and you make it into a straight.
Okay, so now what are you when you're racing, right? People talk about apexes, trying to maximize the straightest you can go. Is it the same sort of concept? Are you drifting?
No.
What is it like? Like how are you?
The same type of concept.
Yeah. So what is it even like?
For me, it's more of like the feel. To be honest, there's like anything you think you learned on the track, just throw that in the trash.
Really?
Like it's not necessarily going to help you really because the roads are so unpredictable. So you have no idea because they're actual roads that cars drive on.
Not during the race.
No.
Okay.
But they're actually roads that
so
people
they could have
drive
potholes.
On.
They could have debris.
You have no idea.
Holy shit.
And so you can't really judge it. Whereas on a track, smooth pavement, if it's a good track.
Right.
But
out of bounds, they have like bunkers set up. There's none of that.
No, like don't get me wrong. There's hay bales and stuff, but
what's a hay bale doing at 160 miles an hour?
You go off the road, you are either going into a mountain or you're going into like a 75-foot gorge. Guaranteed. Shit. And I would know because back in 2021, I went into the mountain.
Oh, I need to hear that story at some point. I want to hear a little bit more about racing, but I need to hear that story.
That was completely my fault, but yeah.
That happens. I've been in a few crashes on the road. I can only imagine that people are going off the road. Do crashes happen like a lot?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say no, but yeah. I'm telling you, you know how people when you're driving and you get a message and you look down for a second and like that second is
it's it. Done.
It's it. You know. A friend of mine was just helping me do brakes today, and he was telling me of what happened to him. He's on the road for a second, total his work down.
He needs to go to J&B Body Works.
That thing is not salvageable, but I'll give him the card. But
that's good.
It's just if you're racing and any bit of lack of focus on hill climbs
for a second,
you're done.
That's scary.
You're done.
I don't think so. Have you heard of this guy Alex Honnold? He's the guy in free solo. He climbed El Cap, which is like the highest. It was the highest free solo, meaning he climbed the mountain the climb without any ropes. There's a big thing about it called Free Solo. It's a documentary. It's an amazing movie. You haven't seen it.
Okay.
Big recommendation. So they did research on this guy, and they found that after scanning his brain several times, he lacks. I don't know the terminology, but he lacks the fear center of his brain.
Really?
So the area that creates fear, he doesn't have it, which is why he's been able to be so successful at this, because when he's up there, he's not scared.
Right.
He's focused.
He just does.
I imagine, and I mean this respectfully, but people like you are probably similar. You probably have a little bit of that craziness, because to do that, to know people go off the track, to know the dangers, are you scared when you're in that car?
No.
Not at all.
No. Like,
wow.
When that light turns green, for me, from start, as cliche and corny as it might sound, go time, yes, from start to finish, like, I'm free.
Wow.
Like, nothing matters. Like, no stress of pills or paying this or do it. Like, nothing matters. It's just you, the car, the road, and the time you want to.
So is that what you're chasing?
Freedom?
Just that feeling?
Yeah. Like,
wow.
Freedom has been, I'm originally from the Caribbean. I came up here from a young age. The reason why I got into cars per se is because when I was 5, 6 years old, my grandmother had a table in our backyard, and it was a metal table. I would go under it and sit and act as if I was driving. I'll take a paint bucket cover, stick a stick through it, and I'd have my brothers and sisters like, hey, yeah, get in my car and close the door, and
it's awesome.
I'd play in the dirt with Matchbox cars. I don't know if people are too young or if they know about the Matchbox.
I was a Hot Wheels guy myself, but I know Matchbox. I know
right,
Matchbox.
right. So that was the thing, and it was like when I came up here, that was all I wanted to do, but.
Just get anything car related.
Yes, but I couldn't.
Right.
I could not.
You were 6.
Well, not only that. When I got to the age where I could actually go and get a license and stuff like that, I went to the DMV. They said, "Oh, you need a passport and a birth certificate," and I'm like, "All right, cool." Took it there. Took the one from my country. They were like, "What is this? We can't do anything with this." So I couldn't get a license at all. I was an immigrant. I didn't have no papers. Didn't get papers or social security number until I was 28 years old.
Oh, damn.
And
so you started driving at 28?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. So can I ask how old you are?
37.
So in 10 years, you went from your first time driving to a professional race car driver.
Yeah.
That's
more or less.
That's a second to breathe on that, because that's incredible, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I've been driving since I was 16. My parents would let me mess around in cars a little bit when I was 15, but 16, and I'm still not a good enough driver sometimes I think I couldn't pass the driving test today. And you're telling me you're going 160 miles an hour on streets.
Listen, I remember when that came in the mail and the social security number came in the mail. The first thing I did? I went to the DMV to take that test.
First thing.
Very first thing. Well, I cried first because I wanted it so bad.
Finally.
I'm telling you, there was so many opportunities in my life that got thrown to the wayside because
of that.
I wasn't able to, because I rode BMX for a very long time, and I actually had a huge opportunity to work with a few different companies and go on this action sports TV show in Australia, but I couldn't travel. You leave America, you ain't coming back as an immigrant. So when that happened, it was like, all right, we're going to do this. And I remember I had all these friends, and I would tell them, man, I'm going to buy this car, and I'm going to be, I'm going to race, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And all of them would, some of them would be like, yeah, whatever, you ain't going to do it. Because I had no way to get a license, no way to get a job, nothing. Right. And it was today, my friend Oscar that I was working with today, and then my friend Lilo, she actually took me out to dinner the other day, and she was like, man, I'm so proud of you. That's awesome. I remember when you didn't have nothing, you was shout out Leo, thank you, appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Shout out.
When you have nothing, and you actually did what you said you was going to do.
It's rare. People talk a lot, man.
Yeah.
People say a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And for you to go out and do it is really impressive. What was that first car?
Car I'm driving right now.
For real?
The race car I have right now.
Wait, so your daily driver is the car that you race?
No, it's not my daily driver now.
But it was.
I bought it 6 miles from the dealer, brand new. And I've had it for 8 years now.
And what is it?
2015 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution Final Edition.
So that's in the car enthusiast world. I think the two, like when you're 16 and you watch Fast and Furious and you learn about cars, you learn about modifying cars. The two accessible cars, I mean, debatable,
right,
are the WRX
Yep.
and the Evo.
Yep.
Those are like, when you're a kid, you're like, if your dad takes you to the dealership and gets you that car, you're like, I'm the man. You're like, screw the BMW, screw the Mercedes, all that stuff. I want one of those cars.
Yep.
And so you got to have that as your first, and it's a manual transmission.
Yes, it is.
So you wouldn't race automatic. It would always be a manual transmission car.
Well, no, I mean, well, the way that the racing world is going, with the DCTs and what I would do is I would get a sequential.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So that's just forward and back.
Yes. Yes.
But it's a manual, but it's
ish,
right.
Ish, because I've come to notice that no matter how fast you think you shift, you're not beating not just someone hitting the paddle, but you're not beating a computer that's like
right. Have you driven a PDK Porsche?
No, I have not.
So Porsche PDK is like the famous example of one of the best transmissions ever put into a car in history, and it is like driving in a video game. I mean, you think it and the car does it. It's incredible. So I completely agree with that sentiment. I love manual transmission. I have 2 manual transmission cars. It was a badge of honor when I was a kid, learning, because not everybody can do it.
Right.
There's that old saying, like the best anti-theft device is a stick shift, right? Because not many people know how to drive a stick.
100%.
So I completely get that, and I think a little bit of what I'm hearing from you, and I completely agree, because I grew up in a town with no sidewalks. Mm-hmm. I had to have a car. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to go anywhere, I had to have a car. And so having a car is synonymous with freedom. It is just
it literally is.
So there's also something to that feeling of knowing that you are doing something as you're driving.
Yes.
You're shifting the gears. If you make a mistake, that's on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what have you done to the car to make it hill climb ready?
I'll go back to what you were saying about it's synonymous with
Freedom.
Yeah. Before I even decided to hook the car up, I've taken on so many road trips, and even when I've hooked it up, I've driven it to so many different places: Canada, Florida, Georgia, all over. Nice. I really want to ship it to Cali and drive it back from Cali.
That'd be sick.
But what have I done to prep it? Quite a lot, but not as much as people would think, because they would see the car and you'd automatically be like, "Oh my God, this thing has to have like 700-800 wheel horsepower." No, it does not.
So is that not what hill climbing is about? It's not about high horsepower?
You know what? I was talking to a friend of mine, Rob Holland. It's not always necessarily about high horsepower. It's more about driver
okay.
mod, right? Take, for instance, I'll use myself as an example. When I first started doing it, I wasn't the best driver doing it. I wasn't there's a learning curve.
Right.
But over time, you become better. That's why I tell people that's why when people think it's so much horsepower, I said, no, it's 379 wheel horsepower. I just wanted to master myself and master the car.
Okay.
Before taking it to another level and adding horsepower.
Right. My favorite saying is, it's the wizard, not the wand.
Right.
Yep.
Because I see so many people who buy these cars, whether it's the Evo or WRX, and they put, you throw like 10, 15 grand in it, you're at like 700 wheel horsepower easily,
that's
right?
Nuts.
And I understand it, to each his own. But for me, it was more of, I didn't want all that horsepower and not be able to control the car or enjoy it like the way I wanted. I wanted to push it to the limit of where it was at and push myself to the limit. So all I did was upgrade the suspension.
So
all
lowered
of the
it, coilovers,
yes,
that
coilovers,
sort of thing.
Tie rod ends, you name it, all the rods you need in terms to make the suspension stiffer. I did it.
Weight reduction?
Yes.
Okay.
The entire car is gutted. There's only one seat in the car.
Wow. So no AC, no navigation, no nothing.
No.
Wow.
No.
And
it still has the dash.
Okay.
And it still has the heater core because you're in the Northeast, and I do like to drive it around sometimes in the winter. If you go to
really?
a show, if you do something like that. Yeah.
That's sick.
So I left the heater core in it. However, I think after this year, it's not gonna have it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna knock out a few pounds because I like in the Porsche world, because we're a Porsche certified shop, so we deal with a lot of them.
Oh wow. Okay.
And one of the things which is interesting with Porsches is they make such a well-built engine that there's really, listen, now with the turbos and everything, but if you get a 996 and 997, there's not much you can do to increase the horsepower like crazy. You have a really well-built, well-cornering sports car.
Yep.
But the thing that a lot of people talk about is if you are looking to make a faster car, you could do a plenum, you can tune it, you can throw exhaust on it and stuff like that. But really, weight reduction is a huge part of it.
Of course.
So I'm sure that's got to be one of the biggest things for your car, right? Is just stripping out everything that's unnecessary in the car.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
All of like the, what do they call it? The sound deadening, all that stuff.
All that stuff.
So I took everything out the car. The next thing that's gonna go now is I'll be cutting out the inside of the door panels. They have the door bars in it. I'll be taking those out because my full roll cage already has door bars. Mike Robinson out in PA, he did it. Go see him. He's really good at that. But he did it, and it came out really good. So I don't really need the door bars, and it's going to reduce so much weight. And I'm getting rid of the glass, too. I think going full Lexan.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I think a lot of people don't understand that concept. They say you take out all these safety features, the car gets pretty unsafe. But you're probably safer in a car with a roll cage and a harness than you are in a road car, right?
Yes, more or less.
Debatably.
I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a clip of these two guys who are rallying, like we talked about earlier, and they go off in the most aggressive, violent way I've ever seen in my life. Flipping, going, and they show the interior clip, and these guys are just another day at the park, and they stop and like, oh, all right, cool, and get out of the car.
Like it's nothing.
And the car is stripped to bare nothing, roll cage, just 2 seats, 2 guys, and whatever they need.
Wow.
So, I mean, in actuality, I would say it's safer, but in everyday driving, probably not so much because you just don't know, with so many people out there and the unpredictable nature of what's
right. Yeah.
That's why I don't really try to drive the car too much.
Right.
Like if I'm gonna do something at early meet, and just keep it where traffic is as less as possible. Just because you have to drive for everyone else, and people would just, yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing with motorcycles too. Like they say, it's most of the time it's not the driver, it's the person it's the other drivers around you.
Man, and I want to get one so bad, man. Like,
I have one, and
what you got?
I have a 2018 Triumph Bonneville T100. It's my first bike that I had. I got it 3 years ago. It's the only bike I think I'll have, and honest to God, my wife loves it more than I do, and that's why I want to get rid of it because. If I get hurt, it's one thing. But when she's in the back, I'm thinking the whole time, like, I would much rather go down hard without her than go down soft with her. Yeah. Because that's just terrifying. 100%. You put my life at risk. It's whatever. It's a calculated risk. Yeah. With her, it's like, shit, more weight. And fuck, there's a possibility where we go down, I walk away, and maybe she doesn't.
She doesn't, yeah.
So it's terrifying.
Yeah, man. I've had so many friends who've passed away just from, and it wasn't even their fault. They were just sitting on the bike, and some came out and just took them out. Yeah. Like, I had a friend recently lost his arm. Like, we used to go to the gym and work out together all the time. It's like,
that's terrible.
Yeah, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's
terrible, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
But, I mean... You still want to fight the urge to not get one, but it's just
it's better, man. Honestly, I've been fighting with my wife to get rid of it.
Really? She doesn't want you to.
Listen, I'm a car guy. There's a ton of stuff I can put that money into once I sell it. True. I could do upgrades on my cars. I could even buy a cheap little beater car to have fun with, But I want to, since we're kind of on this topic of crashing, and it's like a shitty way to segue. You want to talk a little bit about that crash you had in 2021? Oh
yeah, that was one of the only. That's the only crash I've ever had. To be honest, knock on fake wood. Chinese wood. I'm not with every wood around here. No, it was. To be honest, man, I take full responsibility and accountability for it. It was my fault. So what happened was. We had just gotten that same year, we gotten sponsored by Exity. I don't know if you Exity USA, Exity Clutches. they, their marketing manager, marketing director, Roberto Trinidad, they had this great idea. They've never had a wrapped car for Exidy in America.
Okay.
So he said, we're going to make your car the first car.
Sick.
So we got that, we were getting that done. My friend, Raul, owns Lido's Customs Body Shop as well. They wrapped the car, and it was such a scramble to get the car done. We got it done, and the night before the race is when we got the car done. Put it on the trailer, left that night, drove 12 hours to get to Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
And when we got down there, Saturday was great. Saturday was cool. Getting runs up the mountain. This Sunday, that's when it all went to shit. I'm going up for a run, and I'm going up left turn like I've been doing all Saturday, and I turn and the car wouldn't turn, and I think I was doing probably like maybe like 65, 75 miles per hour going, and the car wouldn't turn and just went straight. Psh.
Why wouldn't it turn?
I thought that a control arm snapped or something that but after I took the car home and I inspected it, I saw that my tires, the beads that were inside the tire, they're actually showing. So it's and my camber it's pretty, I don't know what it is, 3.8.
Okay.
On a camber, it's pretty aggressive. And then when you're turning, it's even more on that.
So you're beating up that one area of tire.
Exactly. And so once I looked at the tire, like both front ones done.
Right.
But like I said, it was my fault. And the reason it was my fault is because I didn't even bother to rotate the tires before I left.
Well, you had to scramble. You were
right.
Running.
And I raced all last year on them. And I drove the car during the winter. And so completely my fault.
Wow.
And so going into seasons moving forward, I never will, run with tires from last season.
So two things. So one, I think this is important for people who are into cars, but man, I know this. When you're driving on a road car, your car is cambered very safely. Mm-hmm. Most of your tire is on the road during your normal driving. Yeah. And sometimes when we get cars up on a lift, you'll see one section of the tire is bald and the other sections are good. So that means that your alignment is probably off and you need to get it checked. So that's just a quick tip for everybody.
Right, 100%.
When you're driving in a race car or a stance car, there's certain things you can do to your camber, which is how your wheels sit flush with the floor. So
yes,
negative and positive camber. I always forget which one goes which way, but
negative is this way,
negative.
Positive.
So negative is what you're doing, right? You're running a negative camber, and that's going to give you a little bit better
negative
cornering.
3 point. Yeah, negative 3 point. Yep.
Okay,
yep.
So that's an interesting thing for people to understand is you're doing that specifically, but it can be dangerous for other aspects of driving. Like it might be good for performance, but not on a normal day. And like if it's raining or snowing,
definitely
you're screwed.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
you see these kids is like negative 12 or something like that.
Crazy.
Like the Back to the Future car. I'm like, man,
it's a look.
I mean, each his own, man. I'm not gonna rag on them, man. Like if that's what you got to do to get what you want, it's your car. I mean, you do it. Just be safe, man.
100%. Yeah,
just be safe.
I see people like in these worked Civics with nice wheels, cambered as hell, but blowing the doors off of cars, and I'm like, God bless. God bless. Godspeed. Good luck.
To each his own, man. Like
Yeah. So when you were making that turn, what was going through your head? What did you do? Did you go off the track? What happened?
Yeah, I just went completely off. Like you can see that the wheel is turning, but the car is just going straight. And even from the in-car footage, I turned the wheel. The car just went straight.
You have a steering kit or anything like that, like to make the wheels?
Well, like an angle kit?
Yeah, angle
no,
kit,
that's drifting. I don't have. Yeah.
You don't need that. That's you're going.
No. Yeah.
That's wild.
But
did you get hurt?
No, I mean the only thing was like a muscle spasm because I did the one thing that you shouldn't do when you get in a crash is like tense up and squeeze your steering wheel. Yep. They say just let relax. It go and just go like this when you're going to get into a crash.
Try telling that to somebody going 60 miles an hour into a freaking tree. Yeah,
right,
don't tense up, just relax.
But the thing about hill climb is, when I was first getting into it, you needed all the safety shit. for track stuff, you got guys go out with t-shirt, gloves, shorts, chilling, and a helmet. They're good. But like with the hill climb, it was mandatory. You needed a full race suit.
Okay.
No Mac socks, race shoes, no Mac undergarments, no Mac like balaclava, helmet, head and neck restraint.
Okay, so you're suited up.
Yeah, you even need like arm restraints because God forbid your car flips over or anything like that, your arm isn't like flailing everywhere. The arm restraints, they're connected to your belt, and you know they only go a certain length. So you know they make sure that you have all that safety stuff that you need because they just, I mean, people have died.
Damn,
you know,
that's crazy.
Like just last year, God rest his soul. You know, like a friend of mine, we was at the hill climb together. I spoke to him moments before he went up the hill. Jesus. He went up the hill, and like he hit it. The tree hit the door of the car. Instant.
Wow, that's terrible.
And he's been racing for years.
Wow.
So it's like at any moment, any time, you just don't know, you know. But they try to make sure that all the safety things is in place and you have it. Like PHA and the Appalachian Hill Climb Series, they make sure that you have all the safety requirements before they want to put you on the road in the car. And if you're a novice, they'll take you up for a drive on a pickup truck and teach you all the things about the hill climb.
Okay.
Stay away from this. Stay away from that. And they said, you're not going to break any records your first time out here.
Right.
Take your time.
Learn.
Exactly.
You're a novice.
You got Saturday and Sunday. Just, you know what I mean? And that's how it was when I first did it, and I appreciated it, you know? And I still, even till this day, I continue to ask questions from the guys that's been doing it for so many years. It's the only way to
get better.
Yeah, yeah. And they're, like, super fast, and I just, you know, God, you know, I heard the saying, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use it proportionately.
I love that. That's great.
So I just, you know, taking the information and use it as best as I could, you know?
Is it a lot of maintenance to keep your car track ready? Yes
and no. So my car, since, like I said, it's 379 horsepower, it's fairly close to stock. It's got bolt-ons and stuff like that, but the only thing, you know, I use different oil because, of course, the heat cycles in the engine. You need a thicker viscosity oil because if you choose like what they recommend, which is 5W30, it'll break down. Yeah, it'll get thin really quick and end up sending a rod to the block. But I use that and my brakes, and like I said, I changed all the control arms and all the suspension and everything. So that's different. So my car, not so much. Like I can go up the hill, come back down. I just have to check my tire pressures, make sure everything's good, splitter's good, everything's good to go, and I can go right back up.
Is it stock enough for, like, let's say I was hanging out with you. Could I get in the car and drive it and be able to drive it? I'm not talking about race it and drive it well, but, like, you know, I couldn't get into an F1 car and drive it.
No.
Is it drivable for the normal person?
Yes and no. Like, the clutch is a bit more aggressive than an OEM clutch, but yeah, I think if you know how to drive stick, you can definitely drive it.
And so it's not the cheapest sport in the world. How important is sponsorships in your world?
Man, sponsorship is a huge part of it.
Why?
You know, because it's not cheap. Anybody who does it will tell you, like, you better be broke for most of your life because, like, it's if your car is like high maintenance where you got to change engines and stuff every single year.
People
and like
do that?
breaking, yes. There's people who like break engines and you have to like replace it and like they're doing just regular maintenance. They'll find some scoring in the cylinder wall and they have to take send it to the machine shop and that's not cheap.
No.
So it's like sponsorship is super important, I think. You know, there's been people who've been doing it for years. They don't necessarily have any sponsorships or do it that way. I mean, teach his own. I was able to be lucky enough to get involved with sponsorships and learn sort of the game. Shout out Roberto Trinidad. He taught me that. And Daryl Simpson from Turn 14. But I was able to, you know, have someone pull me under their wing and kind of show me the ropes of it and understand that in terms of partnerships, I don't like to call it sponsorship, I call it partnerships.
That's a cool way to say it.
It's a two-way street, and it's one hand to help the other. The company's investing whether it's their product or their finances into you,
Time, whatever.
exactly, you pay that back, twofold. And so I respect that. I try to respect that relationship as best as I can. And so that not only does it speak more of like my personal value, but it shows other people like, hey, this might be the route. He's doing it. What's he doing that I need to learn?
Interesting.
And ask questions, and maybe I don't mind showing anybody. I'm not a gatekeeper in any fashion.
That's awesome.
Somebody asks me a question. All right, this is how you do it. All right, cool.
So a few questions that arise from that. One would be, so do you feel more pressure in a race to perform well because you have people that are backing you? Do you feel like it's, I have to do it. I have to win because I want to support the people who are supporting me? And then my other question, just so I don't forget, I have the worst ADD in the world, is so you're talking about helping newcomers. So after that, I want you to talk a little bit about whether or not you recommend hill climbing to people and how somebody can get into it. But first and foremost, talk about the pressure of sponsorships.
To be honest, I'm very I'm very hard on myself, so I put all the pressure on myself. But I do believe there's some kind of pressure because you do want to get out there and perform. You're representing not just yourself, but you're representing a brand now, and you're building a brand. And so I feel as if there is a level of pressure. But you know what they say, pressure makes diamonds. So I enjoy it. For those that don't know how to handle the pressure, maybe they shouldn't. But
it's not your sport.
Yeah. But I enjoy it.
Awesome.
But I will say, yeah, there is pressure.
Yeah,
there is pressure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because you wanna, like I said, you wanna make sure that you give that ROI.
Right.
Because just that ROI alone, it'll speak volumes. You never know what door a relationship will open because of the ROI that you
100%.
gave. And I've learned of course it's what you know, but it's who you know at the same time.
I think what you just said is huge. I don't think a lot of people understand this, especially in the social media space with us. Like, if I'm going to, so I had a conversation with somebody today, and I'm not going to try to get too in depth with it because I don't want to really like burn this bridge because I'm really excited about the opportunity of possibly working with them. But you need to networking. A lot of what networking is mutual added value.
Yes.
Like, you need to have something to go to somebody and say, we can add value to each other's relationship.
100%.
So like in this non-transactional but transactional example we're talking about here with somebody sponsoring you, let's say they give you the coilovers, right? Yeah. And then you put them in your car, you talk about them, and then you have a sticker on the side of your car, right?
Yes.
They are hoping that you as an experienced, good driver are going to use their product in a way that they want other people to use their product. Yes. You win, then they say, this is the car that's been sponsored by this person. And then for you get to have a good product in your car. So if you're going to go to somebody, and this is just like a tip that I've learned just throughout trying to network with people, know your worth and express that to them, because you have to sell yourself, but you have to build. You can't just go to somebody and be like, I want this from you. What are you bringing to the table? Yes. And not every relationship has to be like that. It doesn't always have to be a give and take. But if you're going to try to be somebody, build your craft. Yep. Be the best driver you can be. Yep. So you can go to that company and say, I'm a fucking badass. You want your shit in my car. Right. And then watch. And I think it's important for people to know that, because then it'll kind of put in perspective what the relationship can be like, and then you'll see the relationships that you'll build, and you'll see everything soar. Right. And people start coming to you. Right. And saying, I want my stuff in your car. Yeah. And I think that's just important for people to understand. If you're a photographer, if you're a painter, add value. Yes. Like, don't just be like, I'm a painter, I'm a good painter. Be like, no, this is my shit. Yeah. And I think that's huge for people to understand.
No, that adding value part is what a lot of people don't understand. I've had many like companies say like they've sponsored people or partnered with people, and most people are just like, all right, gimme, and it's like, no, it don't. Like, what value are you bringing to us? Right. It is always a value proposition. There's and if you make the value proposition known from the get go, all right, this is what I can bring to you. I'm asking this of you.
Right.
Is this something that, you find feasible as ROI?
100%.
Right? You know what I mean? If you know ROI, return on investment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that goes over so many people's heads, and it really just, it's baffling to me sometimes, to be honest.
But I think it's good for people to hear. Could be a wake-up call for some people.
Right.
A lot of people will come to us now that our social media is starting to slowly grow and say, I'm this guy and I can do this for you. And then you look at their stuff and you're like, listen, I'm down to give people a chance.
Yes.
But and this is, I'm saying this not as a way to pump us up or pump you up. I'm saying this so that people can grow and understand. In certain situations, you might need that person more than they need you.
100%.
Try to flip that around, or try to at least make it equivalent. And
Right.
I think like the way you said it is perfect. Like really think about this as set your expectations up front. Here's what I can add. And also think about it in a business transactional way. What's your return on investment?
Right.
Like if you were buying a house or an investment property, you'd think to yourself, am I going to get my money back? Is it going to be worth it? Think about it like that. Think about your worth as a monetary thing. And I think people can learn from that.
Right. And also, if I can add, there are some situations where you may have to prove yourself, and you have to be able to set your ego aside and say, okay, all right, you're offering this. All right, we'll take it, and then we'll revisit the following year.
Yes.
That way, you show them what you have or what you can do.
Right.
And then at the end of it, it's like, all right, here's what we did for the year. Here's, all right, let's renegotiate. Let's talk, moving forward.
Right.
And it's not like you're not sitting on an island like, oh, I'm the shit. You got to work with me. It's more of like, here's the value I've given you. Now the ball's in your court. What are you gonna do?
You are at the upper hand.
Exactly.
And I think it's messed up, but I think a little bit of it is generational. I think the younger generation, my generation, and people younger than both of us, they don't. There's no better way of saying it than they're not comfortable with eating shit. Like you got to eat shit, dude.
You got to, man.
You got to cut your teeth and eat shit.
To.
Like when I see people who are come out of college and they don't have a job 2-3 years after because they're comfortable, maybe they're doing something, but they're like, I didn't see anything that I really liked. It's like, dude, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. You've never worked.
Right.
You've never done this before. Go and do it and learn and then come to me and say,
exactly.
I'm worth more. All right, I trust you. But it's baffling is the perfect word to say it. It just blows my mind. Just doesn't sound appetizing, but eat shit.
Listen, I tell people all the time, I was like, man, suffering builds character.
Yes.
I've gone through a lot of it. Like from the ages of 21 to 28 when I didn't have it, literally the hardest years of my life. It even brought me to the brink of suicide. Not many people know that. Wow. But I guess they know now.
That's important for people to hear.
Yeah.
Because people might see a guy like you.
And be like, no, never.
Right.
And people have told me that. It's like, you're lying. I was like, no, I was down and out. You don't know, like, a lot of people don't understand when you can't, when you can't provide for yourself and you can't do this or you can't do that and all these things that you want to do and you're not able to do it. It's very, like, debilitating. It's very soul sucking. I got to the point and I was like, man, like, why does God have me here if it's here to suffer? Yeah. And so that was the question that I couldn't answer, and I thought that was the only answer to get me out of it,
to solve the problem.
Luckily I had a buddy who, I knew him since I was 9 and saved my life.
That's awesome.
So, but like you said, you gotta eat shit. Yeah. I've been at the lowest of the lows, so it's just like now, what more can they do to me? It's. Like what can you do to
Pressure makes diamonds. You're a perfect example of it, man. And I don't say it to blow smoke. Genuinely,
No.
It's like it's awesome to hear that you say that you went from a kid who was an immigrant who had nothing much here, didn't get your license until much later than most people in this country do, and then now you are where you are, and that's amazing. And I think that's a huge story for people to hear. And if you would have done something that would have drastically changed your life, like you're talking about, you would have never found this thing that when you sit in this car, you're the most free.
Yeah. And it's, to be honest, like, this is just the tip of the iceberg for me.
That's amazing to hear.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's like, what is that? It's going to sound corny or cliche, but can't stop, won't stop.
Hell yeah. I love that.
Like, it's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, don't get me wrong. We all got those down days. We all got those. But I'm going to keep pushing forward, you know. Like, the next thing I'm working on is to, you know, set up a foundation and get kids in less affluent communities involved in motorsports.
I love that. Is it something like fleshed out enough that we can kind of promote it, or
not yet?
You're working on it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm working
cool.
on it.
So we'll when you
I
get
mean,
that together,
I have the name and the idea and everything down. It's just getting all the pieces put together.
When you're ready, we'd love to have you back on and talk about it, man.
Thanks,
and promote
man.
it. We'll promote it.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, just to kind of, and no pun intended, but shift gears back into to the hill climb stuff, do you think that hill climbing is more or less accessible than any other sort of motorsport?
I do grassroots hill climb, so I think it's very accessible. However, not many know about it.
Okay.
Because I remember when I tell people about hill climb, like, oh, on gravel roads and stuff. No, that's rally. Hill climb is just getting, although it's been around for so long, like you said, Pikes Peak, you know, they just had their 100-year anniversary.
Wow.
Not many people know about it. And so I've taken it upon myself to try and be an ambassador and try and bring fresh blood in, you know.
Probably not the best way to say it.
I don't know how some of the older cats feel about it, but, you know, all my friends who are, like, in the cars and they're like, yo, we want to, I'm like, yo, come to a hill climb. You don't even have to race. Just come check it out. See if it's something you like. And if it's something you do like, take a car out and drive. You know, get your safety gear, get a cage in, and come experience it.
Damn. So it does sound accessible.
Yeah.
You know, like you go to these guys who race their track cars, you got to pay an entrance fee.
Yes.
You have to get your car spec'd out properly.
Yes.
You're constantly changing tires, constantly doing service. So this seems like way more accessible.
It is accessible. However, like I said before, they do require all that safety stuff.
Right.
But if you have a friend that does it and he's got 2 seats in his car, then, you know, since it's Group A and Group B, what you can do is you can actually have 2 drivers where one drives Group A, one drives Group B.
Oh, that's cool.
And you're one car.
All
and
right,
I've done that before. You know, with a friend of mine, Dan Foley. Shout out Dan. He's the one that kind of put me on the hill climb as well, along with Mike Robinson. But you can both drive the same car for the weekend.
That's dope.
And you can share the car, and the person, if you trust this person and they're a good enough driver, you can trust them to drive your car, or the other way around, and they can get the experience through that way if they don't have a car.
It sounds like essentially too, you could probably share the cost of it too. If you got you and a buddy can go in a car together.
100%. And the thing about hill climbs is they're very inexpensive. You know, like a normal track day. I mean, not track day, like a track weekend.
Right.
$675 for the weekend.
Wow.
If that, you know, $575, $675.
Yeah.
You know. But I get it. You know, you got to pay for the track and all that stuff. But with a hill climb, you know, you got early bird fees where it's like $200 for an entire weekend.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy for people to think about. And it's a weekend of a blast.
Yes.
So it's like, it's money well spent.
Legit. Like, you know, PHA, like their early bird special, you know, they got a race coming up for Weatherly, you know, Weatherly, PA, early bird special, $200.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they give you such a large grace period before that early bird special is done. And then the most you'd pay is probably like what, $250, $300 for the weekend.
Wow,
which is great.
What's a good beginner car for somebody if they want to do something like this?
So many people have so many like type of different cars they would like. It all depends on what you like, but I would say you can jump into Acura Integra, Honda Civic. You can jump into, you know, to be honest, you can jump into anything because there's so many different variations of cars at the hill climb. Like they go from Formula type cars to, I don't know if you know what a Wolf is.
No.
They're made in Europe.
Okay.
Like they're like those kind of single seater type cars.
Yes, I've seen those. Yeah.
And like, you know, people K-swap them with Honda Motors and stuff. They go from like that. You got one guy, Dave Hutchins. He's got like a Formula One type of car, older version, all the way to like a four-door sedan like mine. You know, you got so many different cars. You got people who just build cars who it's just a roll cage and doors. Wow. And it's just whatever you want to build. But, you know, to answer your question, you can take any car, any stock car off the road and go. But, again, the safety regulations, the roll cage, it's very important to have all of that because, God forbid, you just never know.
Happens, yeah.
You just never know.
So my last two questions for you.
Yeah.
What's next for you? And these are kind of broad terms. It could be within the hill climb stuff. And what's last? Meaning, what's your dream in this world? So what do you have coming up next that you're looking forward to and that people who can follow you are looking forward to? And what's the thing that you're every night you go to sleep and you say, this is the goal?
Okay, what's next? So since I said the car's at 379, it's been like that for like the last 5-6 years, maybe 7. With this year, I'm finally building a motor for it. Building it with Cope Performance. Kyle from Cope Performance is the owner. We're doing something very, very unique with the 4-cylinder car.
Okay.
So I am super, super duper excited about it. We're gonna have more power in the car, yes, but just the concept of what we're doing, it's not regular for a time attack car or not even a hill climb car. It's not run of the mill.
And you're being coy with it, so yes.
It's
stay
very
tuned, sort of a thing.
Right?
Okay,
exactly.
awesome,
Exactly.
Great. So definitely follow the boy here.
Yes.
We gotta see what's
up. I'm super excited about that, but also, like I'm really excited about the foundation stuff too.
That's awesome.
Because when I was growing up, you know, wanting to drive and wanting to be involved with cars and stuff, I remember in elementary school or high school, I would see these kids and their like older brothers and stuff pull up with these really nice cars. I'd be like, man, just imagine. And I just got to walk home and watch them get into these nice cars. Just imagine, you know, the young kid who can't afford it to be able to, you know, bridge that gap, you know, and help them find a way to maybe they have a dream, you know, because it was a dream for me. Like sitting here talking about cars, it's a dream. It was all a dream. So for me, it was just it's really that, and just seeing how I can be of service and how I can help people realize their full potential.
That's dope.
Like, cause even now, you know, I always try to give people the most unbiased advice as I can in any aspect of their life, so that they can, you know, navigate it better. Because I always say, if you're not learning, you're dying. If you're not growing, 100%. You're dying.
Yep.
And so for me, it's just I'm a student of life, and whatever I can give back, whether it's advice or anything, you know, I'm all there to help whoever awesome, I can. Dude. And for the final, what's
the dream?
What's the dream? Freedom. Just freedom, man. Like I don't come from much, you know. I very, very poor background. You know, I remember we lived in the Caribbean. And we lived in a shack in the backyard of my grandmother's house. Like when it rained, we would have to take buckets to catch the water that's falling into the shack that we lived in. You know, to be able to not have to worry about, you know, any, you know, like bills or anything that pertains to coming from a struggle. I think that would be the end, and like to be able to sort of give my kids the life that I never had. I mean, I don't have any. Not yet. The only kid I got is that Racecar. But just, you know, make something and teach them the value of things too. Oh, yeah. There's plenty of children who they have great lives, but they don't understand the value of things.
It's huge, man.
And I guess yeah. I don't know if it's cliche or
not. No, that's honestly, I think the title of this episode has to be Chasing Freedom, because that's huge, man.
Yeah,
but I wanted to genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. This is it's I've never been on one before, but I'm excited. You know, I've done like different interviews and stuff, but I loved it.
That's great. Awesome. I'm glad you did. Now I want to give you this opportunity to talk to any of these 3 cameras and tell them where they can find you, how they can find you, plug and promote.
All right, cool. Win It Motorsports on Winit_Motorsports. That's WINETTE Motorsports on Instagram, on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. My name is just Sherwin Pacquette. It's you can't miss me. SHERWINPACQUETTE.
Awesome. Definitely give him a shout, and he's got some good stuff on there, and it sounds like we got some cool stuff in store. So
yeah, and shout out to Roberto Trinidad. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for all of the help that you've always given me. Shout out to all my partners who were involved. I don't want to leave anyone out. You guys have been a great help. Like, you guys, it's been a godsend. Not just the whole sponsor aspect, but to get to know you guys as people. And for me, getting involved with companies and, things like that, it's just the people, and the people was what make the difference for me. And it's been an honor. It's been great working with all of you guys. Not saying this is a goodbye, but it's been great to work with everyone. There's Sabelt, Exity, God, there's so many. Fortunato, Professional Awesome, CB Carrillo, CSF. Like, there's so many.
You said turned 14 at one point?
Well, no, I know I'm really good friends with Daryl
cool.
Simpson. He's like president of, I forget his exact title. He's probably gonna kill me for this. You're supposed to know my title, but it's been great. A vibrant performance. They've been a great help. So many. There's so many. I think there's almost 30. I'm not gonna remember.
We can, if you send us a list, we'll tag them.
All right. I'll send you the list and we even got some new sponsors for this year as well. We got Rally Fire, we got Raul, Lido's Customs. We got, man, it's a lot. And Co-Performance, of course, because I can't wait for you guys to see that. That's exciting. The car will actually be at SEMA later this year with the African American Association. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
But yeah, it'll be showcase with them. Exity's designing a brand new wrap for the car. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been the J&B Body Talks podcast. You can find us at J&B Body Works on pretty much all the social medias. We got YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow, enjoy, and this has been amazing. Thank you so much, man.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Dope.